Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome back to another episode here on my channel, Mind and Muse Crochet and Other Crafts. I am Caroline, your host, and basically I come back here every couple of weeks to share with you the crafty side of my life. So thanks for joining me this morning. And on this side of the world, we have just finished celebrating Thanksgiving, which in a lot of ways wasn't a celebration as, let's just say, how we were used to doing it. But we tried our best to make sure that my husband's parents had food for the day and that we at least sat down for a while together, even if we had to be in separate parts of the house. The parents inside because they are elderly and have a lot of ailments, and us outside. And we just shared our food and shared and gave thanks for our many blessings. And so, if you celebrate Thanksgiving, I hope that you were at least able to do that also. And just take a moment of reflection and think a little bit about all the things we have to be thankful for. I need to thank especially a viewer of this podcast who commented on the last episode and who mentioned to me how, let's say, just I needed to think a little bit more about the many things that I had to be grateful for and just be grateful for them. You don't need to make a big to-do about them. You don't need to make large celebrations about them. But you do need to feel that thankfulness in your heart. And so I am thankful to her for reminding me that no matter how things go for us, it's always important to keep our spirits up, especially on this channel, because I know a lot of people come in just to chill, right? Just to have some time between two old friends and to talk about common interests and not to be bogged down by low spirits. And so I don't want that to happen. I'm sorry if it did. And so I will try. My promise that I will try to keep this channel happy from now on. So, on a happier note, if you'll notice the backdrop that I have behind me this morning, that's a little different from the one that's usually behind me. It is simply my alpaca blanket that was made using a pattern that was provided by, or is still provided by, the Make and Do crew, makeanddo.com, and they provide the pattern with all the instructions for making this wonderful blanket. It was my first attempt at C2C, and ever since I made it, I have been hooked. I mean, I don't do it as all the time, but anytime I think of something new to try out, I always want it to be in C2C. For example, this morning, as I was looking around on the internet, kind of like lately, the first thing I do when I wake up is see what's happening in other parts of the world. And it was brought to my attention that a new pattern from a designer that I follow on Instagram just came out. And although I could not buy the complete kit because, COVID, mail takes a long time to get here. If I didn't remind you, I live in the Caribbean, which it's not always easy to get a good mailing time on anything that we purchase. So for the most part, I've been trying to stay away from purchases just because I don't want to have to wait forever to receive it or to have anything go wrong in the mail and not receive it. But there's a lot out there that calls to my attention. So I'll show you this. Jo Janes is the name of the designer, and on Instagram she is Jojo Twinkle Toes. And this morning on her feed, she announced, I think she was sharing actually the feed from Dara Moore's, and on that feed from Dara Moore's, this is the UK version of Dara Moore's. This is Dara Moore's, the US. Sorry, this is the US version that I have, from which I purchased this pattern. Well, they might be connected, I don't know, but I did not purchase the yarn. There she is at the bottom here. That's Jo Janes, and She's a crocheter and a knitter, and she's also a designer. And this was her latest pattern that she put out this morning. And I have a daughter who is a fan of gnomes, and I just thought that that would be super pretty. I don't know if I'll have time to make them for them, of course, because I would need to make them and send them out to them before the deadline so that they could get things for Christmas. But I am going to give it a try with all the other 1,000 things that I have occupying my time. I'm going to give it a try. So it includes a pattern. I think you need to be able to read charts in order to complete this. I'm not sure if the written version, if the written instructions are an exact duplicate of what happens in the chart or not. But, well, you can take a look at it and see what happens. I believe it's made with DK yarns. The suggestion is Durhamore Studio DK, but obviously I am not going to buy Durhamore Studio DK. I am going to try and use something from my stash. And so from my stash I have found that I have these yarns, which are very vintagey, so I think they're going to look great. These are super bulky, but this week I was looking on, as I do, sometimes just browse through YouTube to see what comes up on my home feed, what suggestions I'm getting, and there was a video on how to separate bulky or super bulky yarn into or make it into a thinner yarn by separating the strands. And so I watched it, and okay, I wasn't convinced that the idea would work at the moment. And I'll put up a little video of me trying to work out the suggestion from the host in the video about how to separate this. And you can see for yourself if you think it's worth the while or not. I was able to separate it, although not as quickly as the host of the video mentions. I mean, it was tricky and it was time consuming. But if you really want to use your stash, sometimes you have to go through those things. You have to go the extra mile and try doing those things that may or not be time consuming, depending. I felt that maybe if I got good at it, maybe it'll get better. Maybe it'll get better. So I have some of this in my stash. If you've been around for a while, this is from a octagon, granny octagon, I think it was an octagon, granny octagon pattern. I created a rug from a bunch of octagons that we did in a school project. And so yes, I'm going to try and separate these. I need some white and I need some pink, but I think I have those in my stash also. And let's see what I come up with. If not, I mean, I think that it is always possible here to change the colors. I mean, it doesn't have to be green in the background. That's because it is obviously a Christmas design in mind. But if I would like my daughter to have this up, let's say, on her couch maybe all year long, maybe I wouldn't do it in that color. So I'm going to see what I can do with my stash and see if I am able to get that out before Christmas. So special thanks to Joe for a wonderful pattern. It is C2C. And so I'm going for that one too. So let's say, besides that, where do we start today? Where should I start today? Just in case, I am wearing the Luna cardigan by Dora Orenstein from her book, Top Down Sweater Designs. And it has always been a favorite design of mine. And I've always had the intention of making a second one, never gotten around to it. But I do have the yarn and everything put away for it. I just need a little bit more of time. Don't we all? Don't we all? Most likely not. Most likely if we would stop doing some things like consistently checking our Instagram and consistently looking on YouTube for videos, we would have more time to do things. I am definitely sure of that. But we're not all capable of distancing ourselves from the social medias in that way. We'll see how it goes. Okay. where to put things down. Now I am in a slightly different setup, so I don't have a lot of, no, that wasn't a good thing to do. So I'll just put it down over here. I'll step aside for a minute, and no, I don't want to put it down over there because I do want to bring it out one more time before this program is over. So, second thing I want to bring back, and I'm going in no particular order here, just in the order that I'm seeing things. I wanted to bring back this because of the fact that it had been something that I had put away for the longest time, and I had even sort of kind of thought I would be giving up on it. But I brought it out one night, and I was able to complete it. Do you remember this? Raise your hands if you remember this. This was, I think, one of the first or maybe the second projects that I started when I started playing around with what is called planned or programmed pooling. The idea is that certain yarns, if you have never heard the term, have color changes that are stable. Like every change in color occurs after a certain length of the yarn. Although the length of the yarn before the change occurs may not be the same for every color. Every time you're going to change, let's say, to a white, or every time you're going to change, in this case, to a red or a green, that length of yarn is consistent. So it gives you a way to determine how many stitches can you do in each color before you need to color change. And if you work with that, appropriately, you get this pattern, this type of pattern. It is known with many different names, right? Whatever it's called, you can get this type of pattern. And I had showed you a while back how I used the help of a program called Planned Pooling. You can find it at plannedpooling.com because it's an online program. And with that program, I had figured out what type of design I would get. And this has 48 stitches. So you enter how many stitches you can make from each of your colors, and it tells you, and you can experiment. If I do this amount of stitches, what will my design look like? If I do this amount of stitches, what will my design look like? It was made for knitting, but it can work. It's not exact for crochet, but it will look very similar to what you see on screen. So this was my finished. I used up a whole ball of, this is Red Heart mistletoe. This is Red Heart mistletoe. And I used up everything that I had left because I had used part of the ball to make, I believe, a small hat. Was it a hat? For an elf hat, yes, for one of my Charlie Browns that I have in the living room. It was an elf hat for Christmas, so because I change his hat for every season, and so I had used some of it. So this is not the whole ball. It's maybe 3/4 of it, let's say. But I thought that looked pretty cool. And I was like maybe about this far in. And I had abandoned it because it was bothering me. See, what happens is that sometimes the length between the colors is not consistent. I mean, sometimes a little longer, sometimes a little less. And so in order to get the number of stitches you program so your design isn't altered, you need to sometimes change your hook size, or instead of a single crochet, do a half double crochet in US terms, or things like that. You need to make slight changes, and for some reason at the point that I was making it, it really bothered me to have to do that. But the other night I was just, I don't know, I was sitting in bed and I was thinking about Christmas and how I should start decorating. And I just started looking through all the project bags that I had in my craft room. And I found this and I just said, well, I'm going to sit down and see if I can even remember how to do this. And I finished it that same night. I finished the front panel. Then I had to decide what I was going to make it into. And I thought, well, I have a lot of wall art on the walls of my craft room right now. There's not a lot of space for a lot more things, and there are some plans. So I figured I would make a cushion, which is very common. It was about the right size for a cushion, maybe a little bit smaller. Luckily, I found a very small pillow in also my, what would we call this, my bedding stash, somewhere under my in bags put away, and it fit exactly. Now, I didn't have any of these colors, the red or the green, and I didn't want to do it in white to make the back part. So I again used my stash. Remember that yarn I just showed you? I used my stash and I just made a backing for it in this vintage sort of like, I have no idea. Let me see. I'll check and see. It was the same yarn. I did have several of them. It's called Napa Valley Pinot, like the wine, Pinot Grigio or whatever it's called, and Napa Valley Pinot, and it is from Lion Brand. This one is from Lion Brand, and it is their hometown USA, and this is a super chunky yarn. It's super chunky. So I did go through the trouble of separating it. This yarn has 6 plies, six, maybe not. It might be 4. Might be 4 because I separated in 2 and 2, and then I tied those 2 together, and I created some yarn for which I could make the back. Because this mistletoe is worsted, so I wanted something similar to worsted, but it was a bit bigger because on the front I have 46 stitches. It might be. Something in that, 46 or 48, and on the back then I made less because it appeared to me that the yarn was thicker. I was using on the front I used anywhere between from a 5 to a 6, so I used 5, 5.5 or 6 whenever convenient, so that I was making the exact number of stitches for each color. And I actually think I could have gone down the number of stitches for the white because that was the one where I had to change all the time. I was always using a 5mm hook for that, whereas for the green and the red I was always using a 6mm hook. So something might have gone down with my count for the white, but I still think it was okay. So I did maybe 30 something stitches on the back. I can put some details if you want. And I did have to stretch it a bit in the end, so I thought I could have used a couple of more stitches. And then I just, you know what I did. Well, actually, I joined it together with a single crochet all the way around. And it's okay to leave the seam on the outside because I was just going to go over it with the crab stitch. So I went over with the crab stitch. Now, I left an opening here so that I could put a pillow in there. Because this yarn has been around for such a long time, and the smell, it was just so, it smelled like something that had been put away for a long time. So I wanted to wash it. I didn't want to crochet it shut. But what I'm thinking about doing now is one of two. I might add buttons. I have buttons that are this color that I thought would look very nice at the back. Maybe 3 buttons, 1, 2, 3. The other thing I was thinking about doing was to crochet it shut, but to crochet it shut with kind of like simply so that I could pull it apart whenever I wanted to wash it. I don't know if that's a good idea. Maybe you guys can tell me. I just left it like that because I think it's very easy to take the pillow out and just leave it like that, take the pillow out and wash it. But maybe what I'll do is I'll do the edging only on this side so that it looks like it's complete, but then just leave it open like that. How does that sound? Just the edging on this side down here. Do my crab stitch around this bottom side and not join them together, and so it'll, when it's on the bed, it will look complete, but then it will be easy to take out. That might work. So I am in love once again with planned pooling. I'm sorry. I fell in love with it again. I got another project on the go with tons and tons of yarn for that project. It's just that I didn't want to continue the project because it was going to turn out to be something like a scarf, which is cool because it is easy. I think the other one, this one is done in single crochet. I like it a lot. The other one is being done in moss stitch. You know, where you single crochet, chain one and single crochet, and on the next round you single crochet into the chains. That's the other one is being done on that. So I don't know, maybe I'll, because I've got tons of it. So I'm going to think about that, because lately also I think about, I mean, how much use am I going to give out, am I going to get out of a scarf? I make a lot of them because I find them so pretty. I like the idea of being wrapped up in cozy. Maybe this time of year where it's kind of like cool outside now, it's not, the mornings are really cool. We can get down to maybe 65 degrees, 70 degrees very early in the morning like now, and so I don't need the air conditioning on to film this or anything like that. But, you know, mid-afternoon, not so cool. There's no way I'm using a scarf. So, yeah. But anyway, you will see some more plant pooling projects in the future, most definitely. Okay, what's next on my list? I guess I can show you. Okay, I'll talk about this one. You've seen this one. This is my hat. This was the plaid hat that I was making the last time we were chatting, and there wasn't quite enough left to it. I was right that I was at a point where I could start the decreases, and I have completed it. And so, this is going to totally mess up my hair, but there you go. I'm hoping that the person that I'm going to make it for has a head a little bit larger than mine, just a slight bit, because it is a little bit too long for me. I guess I should have started my decreases before. But there you go. Let's see. No idea if you were able to see that until I do the editing, but there. I find it a very nice stitch design. Very nice stitch design, and so I liked it. Yeah, it's all red heart. Is it all red heart? Well, there's an unknown yarn there, that blackish gray. I really didn't have a ball band for it, but there's a story behind the red. There's a story behind the red. Behind the red, see, it's kind of, I don't know. I was supposed to make this in a smaller hook than I made this, and I did. Yet it does not look like I made it in a smaller hook. So I'm thinking that maybe this yarn was, this stitch pattern pulled it in so much that instead of going up one hook, I should have gone up 2 hook sizes. So that's kind of what's held me back from gifting it. It's because it kind of looks, to me it looks like a Pac-Man from Mario Brothers. But anyway, the thing was, I didn't have this color red, and I asked my neighbor if she had some red she could lend me, and she said that that she had red with the glitter in it, and that it's got like a strand of metallic. That's what it's called. It's red heart metallic in the color rouge, and so I could separate it and use it. I think I told you this story the last time, and I did as she suggested. I separated it completely, everything that was left, and then returned to her whatever I did not use, because she is a crocheter who makes items to sell, and therefore I knew that for Christmas time of year she would be needing that color, and it really didn't use a lot. So following that idea of separating a yarn into pieces, right, I went about trying to find that video that would allow me to also separate my bulky into 2 worsted and then be able to have 2 balls of yarn instead of 1. Okay, I don't know why. Well, anyway, because of the fact that she allowed me to use this yarn, then I decided, well, I wanted to gift her something. And so it was on my feed on Instagram. You see, so it is useful that you be continuously on Instagram, because you get informed of things that you would not know otherwise. So on my feed on Instagram last week, I believe, I saw a post from She's called the Loopy Lamb on Instagram, and I also believe her site is called loopylamb.com. And if you go to her site, loopylamb.com, she published a free crochet pattern for a gnome ornament. For a gnome ornament. And again, thinking about my daughter, who is a fan of gnomes, I thought, well, you know, maybe, just maybe I can make one. And that is the one that I told you that I don't have here with me because of the fact that I gifted it. I gifted it to my neighbor in gratitude of her lending me that yarn that I felt I needed, or that I felt that I wanted to complete that hat. So I'm just going to try and get up a photo here real quick so that way I won't have to do tons of editing. Let's see. And I don't want to get entertained looking at my feed, but here it is. This was the gnome that I made and I gifted to my neighbor. So you can check it out on my feed on Instagram if you're into Instagram. If not, I wanted to have another one because I still want to send some of those to my daughter who already put up her Christmas tree, but I haven't had the time. Well, anyway, this free pattern suggests that you make this gnome using either your furry yarns, those faux fur yarns that came out. Well, I don't know when they came out, but I first used it a couple of years ago. Or, let's say, crochet up a ball with that furry yarn, or just use a furry pom-pom as the base, and then you sew on the nose, and then you crochet the hat. And since the hat, I also made it in that same red yarn that my neighbor had lent me, so I gifted it to her. And so I used this yarn, which I think is called Fun Fur, also by Lion Brand. And I bought tons of it because there was a sale on Lion Brand a couple of years back that they had this yarn on sale. I think it was 5 for $5. So each one of these balls was like $1 a piece. And for some reason, I bought 5 of them. Well, you couldn't get them otherwise. You had to buy the 5. So I've got tons of this around. They also call this eyelash yarn. It's commonly called that on the internet because of the fact that I guess it does look like eyelashes. But anyway, that's the yarn that I used. And I was able to follow her instructions to make the ball. Not exactly, but since they're so simple, you could just take off a couple of chains at the beginning and then, or actually starts with a magic loop and then crochets into that, but instead of doing the amount of double crochets that she puts into the magic loop, I reduced them, and then obviously that changed the count as I went around. But I thought I needed something. I couldn't have it like too circular because of this type of yarn. I wanted it to be just like this. I wanted it to be like this, like more of an oval shape here, like more of an oval shape. And so I changed it a little bit, and that was the design that I got. But I liked it a lot. Now, did I write down the changes I made? No, of course not. So I'm going to wing it another time to make a couple of more gnomes for the Christmas tree. Although, she showed me a picture of her Christmas tree recently, and it doesn't have a lot of room for more ornaments. So we'll see. But that was a make that unfortunately I wasn't able, well, not unfortunately, I wanted to give it to my neighbor, but I should have thought about keeping it until I showed you guys and then giving it to my neighbor, but you know, I didn't. So, but that is a great make. So if you're looking for a quick ornament, a quick gift that you can give a neighbor or somebody who likes that type of thing, you can change the colors around to whatever color you want. You might be able to, instead of putting, maybe I'll try that. Instead of just putting the filler, the regular stuffing into the ball, which you do, maybe you could put some rice in a sock and put that inside the ball, and that might make it stand up. So instead of an ornament for the tree, it could just be an ornament, let's say, for a fireplace or for a night table. That might be another idea that I might try out for my daughter. being that her tree is so thin and skinny. Okay, so that's an invisible make, but I kind of like shared it with you, and I was happy to be able to do that. So that's 3 finished objects on a week where I don't know how. 2 weeks that have been terrible, terrible, terrible for me. I don't even know how I'm podcasting today, sincerely, because I have so much work that I need to get caught up on. I got up early to actually go and start that work early because my husband, today is a Sunday for us on this part of the world. It's early in the morning. My husband goes out for a bike ride, and a long bike ride most Sunday mornings. And so I've got like all this silence in the house where I fill it up with me talking. And so I like to take advantage of that whenever I can. So I'm going to get this out of the way. I'm going to try to not have to edit it at all and then just be able to put it up as soon as possible. If I can't do it today, I can just go to work and it's already been filmed and recorded and I can put it up any day during the week. So there, that's my idea. What do I have left to share with you? Well, okay, I started for some reason. I also saw on my feed on Instagram, I follow also Nastasia.com, and she is also a crochet. I think she does knitting also, I don't know. But the idea was that she showed since I'm on here, I guess I might as well show it to you, right? This is slouchy beanie that she presented on her YouTube channel, and so you get a notification from YouTube anytime she publishes. I get one, which I hope you're also doing for this channel. I hope if you're not subscribed, you will subscribe and get that bell notification so that whenever I upload, you can also be notified. I hope that doesn't make you unhappy. I usually like when I get a notification from the people that I follow. So there it was. The difference between this one and any other beanie that I had seen, first of all, you might not be able to see it here, but you can look it up yourself, and there's a quick change in what do we call it, texture, and it is also Tunisian crochet. And I've been thinking about getting into Tunisian crochet for a while, so why not use Christmas as an excuse to do so? Well, there was a good reason why, and the reason was because I don't own a Tunisian crochet hook. But I saw it, I watched the video, which her videos are very short. She made it seem very easy, and so I went and I purchased myself where is it? Let me show it to you. I'm back. Here it is. Denise crochet hooks. Now this was before Black Friday, so there was no sale on it or anything. I actually think it might have had a slight percentage of sale because this is the pink version where they give money to breast cancer, so I purchased it. And this is what I have. I'm using the leftover from the pewter yarn that I used for the hat. And this is what I have up to now. Here it is. So it's just one big rectangle, and it tends to curl at the end, which I think is okay because I saw hers. The videos that she shows, it happens to her too. This is the back side. This is the back side, so that just you can see how different it looks. Kind of got all those bumps. And this is the front side, where you see all of those vertical lines connected. And if you look closely at this, it's got the vertical lines too, because this is a linked treble. A linked treble, I think in US, and linked double treble maybe in the UK, but they're linked stitches. So I have always liked the linked stitches, and I always wanted to pick up Tunisian because I've seen so many patterns, and I have made a couple of mistakes where I have gone, instead of doing these 10 stitches like in the back loop, I did 11, but I didn't rip it back because I didn't notice it until I was all the way up here. And this is like half of what I need to do. It needs to be 21 or 22 inches, and then it's just gonna be sewn together at the edges, and you know, joined together at the top, and it will be that slouchy hat. So I've got a long way, baby. But I've done all this in a couple of nights. It doesn't take a long time. It's an easy technique to learn a couple of stitches. And I just thought that I would do that. I would pick up projects that use a couple of stitches each, and you practice them for a long time. Although I'll admit that I did want to make a sock. Once I made this, I thought, oh, this is so cozy. It is so squishy. Very different from what you get with the normal crochet. And so I thought, oh, this was for a house sack or a slipper. This would be quite very, very appropriate. And I had been looking at a couple of also patterns for making a slipper out of a rectangle. And so I'm thinking that maybe I will do that. I actually wanted to break this apart and redo it. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I am learning. I am learning Tunisian crochet. This is what is it? 5mm. This is a 5mm interchangeable, so I can take this off. I have to say that I think I would have preferred the needle, the long needle, instead of the cable. And I say that without even having tried it. But since we're so used as crocheters to holding on to something, and I'm so used to using the ergonomic hooks, that this thin little plastic hook doesn't do it for me. Doesn't make me happy at all. But hopefully the end product will. Hopefully the end product will. So that's something new that I tried out this week. And nothing new, but, and that was my Christmas present also, so I was allowed to buy that. Nothing new, but I am trying to work up a sock. I had in my stash for ages this, what was called by Kayleen, who was a dyer. I believe that currently she is not dyeing. She was the Little Bean Loves yarn dyer. And so she made out these sets that I've shown you in the past that were called Sockmergency kits, where she sent you the tube and you just added a cuff, a heel, and a toe. But I'm not going to add a heel to this one because I'm going to send it to my daughter, and this will be a gift for her husband for Christmas. And she can put in the heel because she'll have his foot and I don't, and she can put the heel in the right place. So that's what we had agreed upon, but I don't know how it's going to go, because seems to be that I've gotten to be a very tight knitter, and so this, even though I did a really stretchy bind off, doesn't really stretch a lot. It fits me tightly, but I might need not to, I don't know if it'll fit him. So, and I don't know if I'll finish them before the end date where you can, I should be able to, right? This was like 2 nights, and this is only because I didn't work on it last night. I probably would have finished it last night. But anyway, so I am just using some yarn that I found in my stash, which is also from a Kayleen, I think it was 12 Days of Halloween or something like that, gift set. I think it was 12 Days of Halloween. And so that was in my stash. And this was in my stash because I purchased 2. And I cannot for the life of me find the other one. So I don't know where that went. I've looked everywhere. And so this is also in my stash because it was a wonderful yarn that I purchased from the Ninja Chicken on Instagram. And I think it's ninjachicken.com. She is a knitwear designer. She is also a yarn dyer, but she distinguishes herself because she dyes yarn using natural colorways, like things that she gets from the plants in where she lives. And so this was eco-printed. This is a yarn that she eco-printed. I don't know if you've ever seen that in the past. And so I used a good part of it to make a shawl. I don't know if you remember the Treasure Island shawl that I made some time ago. This was one of the yarns that I used to make that. And so this is what I have left. And I am using this because it's a very sturdy yarn, and I just love the color to make the top. And a lot of people frog this back. It's a sock blank. Frog the sock blank back, and then they put the yarn into water to give it a rest and so that it will go back to its natural stage, and then pick up crocheting or knitting from there. Obviously, I can't do that. I don't have time for that. I crochet directly um, from the yarn, from whatever that's called, directly from it. So that's the other thing that I picked up this week. And of course, I continue with my Admins Cal, and it is continuing. The hashtags on Instagram, they have told me, are not working well because for some reason they kind of like closed down the hashtags for the presidential election in the US so that they could control the amount of false information that was going out. Well, that's what they said. And so there are some hashtags that didn't work. For example, the Grant Your Yarny Wish this year was affected and didn't work well because of that. And so it was kind of like a lot of people couldn't participate. But the Oddman's Cow, since it's a small hashtag, it doesn't have all those. I think what happened was that they put limits on hashtags that had a lot of followers. And so the hashtag for the Admins Cow, I've been checking it out. It is still small. It's less than 100. So I think I'm still seeing the updates that people put up using the hashtag admintscardical.com. And I don't want to talk a lot about it. I don't know when I'll be doing another update with Clarissa Bit, but I don't want to tire you with the thing. But I just love it. And I love seeing the color changes, and I love everything about it up to now. And so I just wanted to mention that I have now split for the sleeves. And so I have a back part, and here's the split, and I now have the front panels have been separated. Now I don't know how this is going to go. I know it's supposed to be slouchy and big, so this line up the side is not exactly at my side right now because of the fact I think that it has to be slouchy, so there should be more room at the back, so I'm not supposed to pull it tight. I don't think so. Anyway, I'm going to continue working on it. So you can tell that, what do I have? Maybe 5 or 6 rows more than what I had the last time. Some color changes because I ran out of some of the yarns. But basically, I'm still working on it. And it is coming along. And if I do say so myself, I like it. So, if you have nothing to do with your time, if you're on lockdown again, then maybe you'd want to pick up this Stash Buster project, and you really don't. You can obviously plan for it. The original Cardi was, I'll remind you, done with only, I believe, 5 colors, and those 5 colors were repeated in a certain pattern, and a certain pattern, not pattern, because they decided where to put things before they started, but they tried not to put colors next to each other and things like that. So you know, the colors are not sequential or anything like that, but they're not as many as these. And so this looks more like a patchwork and a lot less like the J.W. Anderson Cardi. So if you're new to this channel, if you just turned in because of my title, I don't know, then maybe you don't know about the J.W. Anderson Cardi. But yes, that's my update for you. Will I finish it by the end of the year? Most likely not. Most likely not. I wanted to because Rosina is talking about making a second Cardi for her sister who requested one. And I thought, well, you know, that would be a great idea if I could finish it before she finishes a second one. But yeah, I've got a lot of things on my plate right now. We are ending the school year, so it's not easy to find time. I've got a lot of... sorry that I just saw something out my window that called my attention. But anyway, I've got a lot of tests to correct, and I've complained before about how doing that online does not attract me at all because I don't find it easy. And I have a second job where I have to hand in the final tasks that we needed to complete. I don't know how I'm going to do that because I have 2 tasks left and only 1 week to complete it. At a week when I also have classes ending, I have we don't have final exams yet, but I have to design the final exams. Oh, it's just going to be, so I'm not going to think about it. So I took this time to come and talk with all of you so that I could cheer myself up a bit, just knowing that I'll be up and out there chatting with you in a little bit. So let me thank you for joining me. I hope you continue to keep yourself safe. We're using masks here all the time, anytime we are outside of our homes, because we think that we need to protect ourselves. Things are getting a bit crazy here on the island. We've gone like code orange or something like that with COVID, and we don't have the best health service program in the world. Probably not the worst, but we're not the best, so we really don't have hospitals that could deal with what they're dealing with. So yeah, basically you're being sent home unless you are critical. And we really don't want to be into that condition. I hope you all are taking care of yourselves. I mean, the way you need to wherever you live, because I understand that not everybody has to take the same have to follow the same guidelines or rules in order to stay healthy. So, but hopefully you are following whatever guidelines are given by your government and your health officials so that you are keeping safe and keeping your family members safe. So, until we meet again, which hopefully it will be in 2 weeks when I have ended the semester. I will have Christmas decorations up. I will have had time to send out my Christmas packages, and I can talk to you about all of those things. Am I doing Blogmas? I don't know. I kind of like am tempted by the idea, but last year, if you remember, I was cut short after the second or third one because of my mother's illness and ultimately her passing away. But, well, I don't know. I think it's a lot to, maybe I'll do 12 days of Christmas, so I'll do the last 12 days or something like that. If it's something that you think you want to hear from me every day for 12 days, I don't know who would want to hear that, but maybe, who knows. To each his own, right? We've all got our own likes and dislikes. So until we meet again on this channel, please keep yourself safe, keep yourself healthy and happy, and keep crafting. Bye for now, guys.